My name is Jade Mackenzie. I'm 30 years old. 3 weeks before Christmas, my mother called to tell me not to come to dinner. Not because of an argument, not because I'd done something to upset anyone, because my brother asked her to uninvite me. He said having a mechanic at the table would embarrass him in front of his girlfriend's parents. I fix cars for a living. I own a shop in southeast Calgary. I show up at 6 in the morning with grease on my hands and brake dust in my hair. My brother works at an investment firm in the Beltline. He wears pressed slacks and talks about market volatility. My mother said, "You understand, don't you, sweetheart? It's important to him." I said, "I understand." I didn't tell her what I'd actually built. I didn't tell her about the contracts, the employees, the fleet accounts. I didn't tell her that in 3 weeks, everything she thought she knew about me would come apart in front of 250 people in the ballroom of a downtown hotel. They didn't know that the mechanic they were ashamed of had just been named a finalist for the Calgary Chamber of Commerce Small Business of the Year award. And what they discovered next would make them realize their biggest mistake wasn't leaving me off the Christmas list. It was never once asking what I'd built in the first place. The pattern started 9 years ago. I was 21, sitting at the kitchen table in my parents' house in Lakeview, the same table where we'd eaten every Sunday dinner I could remember. My father was reading the Herald. My mother was doing the crossword. My brother was on his laptop, probably working on a business school assignment. I said, "I'm not going back to university. I'm enrolling at SAIT." My mother's pen stopped. My father looked up from the sports section. "SAIT," my mother repeated. Not a question. A verdict. "Automotive service technology," I said. "I start in January." The silence lasted maybe 4 seconds. It felt like an hour. My mother said, "Carol's daughter just started her articling year at a downtown firm. Helen's son got into the Haskayne School of Business." Not, "That's interesting." Not, "Tell me more." Just, "Other people's children are doing respectable things." My father set down his paper. "Jade, that's physical work. Dirty work. You're a smart girl. I want to fix things," I said. "I want to understand how they work and make them run again." My brother looked up from his screen. "You're going to be, like, a grease monkey?" My mother touched my hand. "Honey, we just want more for you than we had." She'd been an office administrator at a dental practice for 20 years. My father managed a hardware distribution warehouse in the Northeast End. They'd worked hard, pushed us toward degrees, toward offices, toward what they called stability. I said, "This is what I want." My mother smiled. The smile that meant she was disappointed, but didn't want to fight. "We'll support you, of course." Support, I learned over the next 9 years, has conditions you don't see until you bump into them. Over those 9 years, they asked my brother about his job every single Sunday. Every one. What clients did he land this week? Did he hear back about the associate position? Is he going to the conference in Toronto? They asked me, "How's work?" Not, "What came in this week?" Not, "What's the most interesting problem you solved?" Just, "How's work?" The way you ask someone about the weather. Polite. Obligatory. A checkbox before moving on to my brother's quarterly performance update. When I earned my Red Seal certification at 24, I told them at Sunday dinner. My mother said, "That's great, honey," and asked my brother whether he'd heard back about his RRSP matching at the new job. When I opened Mackenzie Auto at 26 registered with the province, liability insurance, workers' compensation, a business account at TD, I told them at Sunday dinner. My father said, "That's a big step." My mother said, "Just be careful, Jade. Most small businesses don't make it past 3 years." Then she asked my brother about his new office on the 14th floor. I stopped bringing it up after year 2, not because I'd stopped building, because they'd stopped listening, and I'd finally accepted the difference. By year 4, Mackenzie Auto had completed over 1,200 service jobs. I had 5 employees. I'd landed my first commercial fleet contract, a property management company with 19 vehicles, Silverados and Transits, oil changes and brake work, and seasonal tire swaps, in and out on a rotation. It wasn't glamorous. It paid for the alignment rack. When I told my parents at Sunday dinner that I'd signed a commercial fleet account, my mother said, "That's wonderful, sweetie." Then she asked my brother whether the firm was still putting him on track for a senior associate title before 30. By last year, Mackenzie Auto had 8 full-time employees. We carried $1.4 million in annual revenue. Our commercial fleet contracts alone accounted for just over $380,000 of that. I personally cleared $162,000 after payroll and overhead. My brother made $74,000 at the investment firm, before tax. But every Sunday, my mother asked him about his clients. And every Sunday, she asked me how work was. The call came on a Tuesday evening in the first week of December. I'd just locked up the shop, hands still smelling faintly of penetrating oil, even after washing them twice. I saw my mother's name on the screen and almost let it go to voicemail. She never called on a Tuesday. "Hey, Mom." "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice had that careful tone, the one she used when she had something uncomfortable to say and had been rehearsing how to say it all day. "How are you?" "Fine. Just left the shop." "What's up?" A pause. "Your brother has some news," she said. "He's bringing his girlfriend to Christmas Eve dinner this year. Proper introduction. Her family is going to be there too. Her parents. Her younger sister. He wants everything to feel a certain way." I set my keys down on the passenger seat. "Okay." She took a breath. "He asked if maybe this year it could just be immediate family and her family. No extended guests. Keep it intimate." I frowned. "Mom, I am immediate family. I know that, honey. I know. But he's worried," and her voice dropped. "He said he doesn't want there to be any awkwardness with what you do." "What I do," I repeated. She hesitated. "Jade, her family is very professional. Her father's in commercial real estate. Her mother's in wealth management. My brother feels like it might be hard to explain." I said it back to her slowly. "Hard to explain that his sister is a mechanic." A long pause. "He just wants to make a good impression," my mother said. "She might be the one, sweetheart. We just want Christmas to go smoothly." I looked out the windshield at the parking lot. A cold front had pushed down from the north that afternoon, and there was already a skim of new snow on the asphalt, thin and hard under the sodium lights. "He's embarrassed by me," I said. "It's not like that. That's exactly what it is, Mom." Silence. "Thank you for telling me yourself," I said, and I meant it, even though the words tasted like concrete. She said, "We'll do something. Just us. In January. Brunch maybe." "Sure," I said. We said goodbye. I sat in the truck for a few minutes without starting the engine. The snow kept falling, thin and quiet, covering everything. I didn't tell her about the nomination. It had come in late October, an email from the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. I'd read it 4 times because I kept thinking I'd misread it. Mackenzie Auto had been nominated for Small Business of the Year in the under 35 owner category. Someone had submitted our name. The board had reviewed the application, verified the financials, gone through client testimonials, and put us on the short list. The ceremony was scheduled for January 14th at the Fairmont Palliser. I'd told my lead technician Priya, who had thrown her arms around me in the middle of the shop and gotten grease on my jacket. I hadn't told my parents. I hadn't told my brother. I'd thought about it. I'd almost mentioned it at Sunday dinner in November, but my brother had been talking about a deal his firm had facilitated for a downtown developer, and my mother had been so absorbed that the moment passed. I let it pass. And then the Christmas call happened, and I stopped thinking about telling them at all. I need to go back to September to explain the part they didn't know. On the 3rd Tuesday of that month, a woman brought an Audi Q5 into the shop. The booking had come through the website regular service, and a noise she'd noticed on left turns. She arrived at 8 sharp. Mid-30s, a linen blazer, a leather portfolio under her arm. She introduced herself as Sophie. I showed her the waiting area and took her keys. The noise turned out to be a worn CV axle, straightforward, but not cheap. I came out to show her the part and explain the work, which I always do on bigger jobs. She asked smart questions. Not the kind people ask when they're worried about being overcharged, but the kind that come from genuine curiosity about how things work. We ended up talking for almost 20 minutes while my tech pulled the part. She worked in marketing for a commercial real estate company downtown, she said. She liked understanding things outside her own area. I liked that about her. We had a good conversation. Over the next 2 months, she came in twice more tires before the snow season, and a brake service she'd been putting off. She mentioned in October that she'd started seeing someone in finance, which made her laugh a little given where she worked. I didn't ask his name. It wasn't my business, and I had no reason to connect any of it to my brother. My brother's personal life wasn't a subject at Sunday dinners. She was a client. Those two categories didn't overlap in my mind. I didn't know that when my brother mentioned his sister to her, he said, "She works in the trades," and changed the subject. I didn't know that he'd described me to her as someone who'd never really applied herself. I didn't know that when she heard trades, she pictured something entirely different from what she'd been looking at for 2 months. Not yet. Christmas Eve fell on a Sunday that year. I woke at 5:30, same as always. Calgary in late December is a particular kind of cold, not just the temperature but the quality of the air, dry and still, every sound muffled by snow. I made coffee, black, and stood at the kitchen window watching the sky turn from dark to gray to the flat white of a December morning. I had nowhere to be. My parents' house was across the city. My brother would be there, the girlfriend, her family, the whole careful tableau he'd arranged. I got dressed, put on my Carhartt, and drove to the shop. Priya had given the crew the week off, but an emergency call had come in the night before a plumbing company, with a fleet account, a service van that threw a code, needed it running before the holiday. I opened the shop at 7, pulled the van in, ran the diagnostics. A failed mass airflow sensor. I had the part on the shelf. I worked alone in the warm shop, while the city went quiet outside, music on low. The particular piece of focused work on a cold morning. I finished by 11. Ate lunch sitting on a shop stool, a sandwich from home, a thermos of coffee, and looked around the bay. 3 hoists. A Hunter alignment rack we'd financed 2 years ago. A tire machine. A wheel balancer. A full wall of toolboxes. The parts room in the back with a proper inventory system we'd built out last year. This was mine. Every piece of it. I'd built it from a leased 1-bay unit with a second-hand hoist and a belief that honest work compounds over time. My brother hadn't asked me a single question about any of it in 6 years. I drove home through quiet streets, past lit windows. Families gathered inside. I made pasta, watched something I couldn't have described an hour later, went to bed early. I didn't feel sorry for myself. I felt clear. And in 3 weeks, whether they were ready or not, they were going to see it. On the morning of January 14th, I woke at 5:15, lay in the dark for a moment, then got up and made coffee. I had a full day at the shop first, a clutch job on a Tacoma that had been in since Monday, 2 scheduled services in the afternoon. I didn't let myself think too much about the evening. The ceremony was at the Palliser. I'd bought a blazer in November, dark green, worn it once. I planned to wear it that night. I worked through the day, locked up at 4:30, went home, showered the shop smell out of my hair, and stood in front of my closet for longer than I'd like to admit. The blazer, dark jeans, low heels I'd had since a friend's wedding 3 years ago. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I looked like someone else. Not the version of me with steel-toed boots and nitrile gloves. Not the version my family found difficult to explain. I looked professional. I turned off the light before I could talk myself into something more comfortable. The Palliser lobby was warm and loud when I arrived at 6. Groups clustered near the bar, voices bouncing off the high ceilings. I spotted a supplier rep I'd dealt with for years, a contractor I'd met at a chamber breakfast in the fall. I checked in at the registration desk. The woman behind it found my name, handed me a lanyard. Jade Mackenzie, Mackenzie Auto, nominee. Good luck tonight. I walked into the ballroom. Round tables, white linens, a raised stage at the far end with a podium and a screen showing the chamber logo. I found the nominees' table, sat down, introduced myself to the other finalists. Someone remarked that the sourdough rolls were better than expected. We all laughed. I was looking at the program booklet when something shifted in my peripheral awareness, the specific register of recognition you feel before your conscious mind catches up. I looked across the room, table 18, near the windows. My brother, navy suit, and beside him, Sophie. Hair up, a dark wrap dress, smiling at something he was saying. Beside her, an older couple I didn't know. And then, 2 seats down, my mother. And my father. My breath went very still. My brother's firm's parent company was one of the event sponsors. He'd gotten tickets, brought the whole table, made it a showcase. None of them had any idea I was here. My name was in the program booklet, sitting in front of them. I turned back to my table, picked up my water glass, and took a slow drink. This was about to get very complicated. Dinner was served. Chicken with a wild mushroom sauce, roasted vegetables, good bread. I ate and talked to the woman across from me, an owner of a custom framing shop in Kensington, and tried to stay present. At table 18, I could see my mother charming Sophie's mother, my father nodding along, my brother looking proud. Exactly what he'd arranged. His girlfriend impressed, her parents approving, no awkward sister to explain. At 7:30, the MC took the stage. A man in his 50s, chamber president, silver hair, warm delivery. He moved through the welcome remarks, the sponsor acknowledgements. When he named my brother's firm's parent company, I watched my brother straighten slightly, catch Sophie's eye, look pleased. Then the MC said, "Our first category tonight is one we're particularly proud of. Small Business of the Year, Owner Under 35. This award recognizes outstanding growth, community contribution, and the kind of resilience that makes local business the backbone of this city." Sophie sat forward. This would interest her professionally. This year's finalists have built remarkable businesses from the ground up. A slide appeared on the screen behind him. 3 names: Claire Fontaine, Fontaine Skincare Studio; Derek Hom, Hom Custom Furniture; Jade Mackenzie, Mackenzie Auto. My name on a screen 12 meters wide, 40 feet from my family. I watched Sophie's eyes move across the names and stop. I watched her reach for the program booklet. Find the page. Read it. Jade Mackenzie, owner of Mackenzie Auto Limited, has grown her independent automotive shop from a single bay operation to an 8-person team, generating $1.4 million in annual revenue. Known for her technical excellence and commitment to transparent service, Mackenzie Auto holds fleet contracts with over a dozen commercial clients, including serving as the exclusive service provider for Harlow Properties Limited, is company vehicle fleet. Her shop was rated #1 in Southeast Calgary for 3 consecutive years by the Calgary Herald Reader's Choice Survey. Sophie's hand came up to her mouth. She turned to my brother. I couldn't hear what she said. I could read the shape of it. She pointed at the screen. At the program. My brother's face moved through confusion, and then something else. He saw my name. He went very still. My mother noticed. She looked at Sophie, then at the screen. Her expression changed the way a room changes when the temperature drops gradual, and then all at once. My father turned, read the screen, and his jaw went tight. I sat at my table with my hands folded in front of me. The MC was still talking. The winner is selected based on revenue growth exceeding 150% over 4 years, demonstrated client and community impact, and the quality of their business model. He paused, opened the envelope. This year's Small Business of the Year, under 35, is Jade Mackenzie of Mackenzie Auto. The room applauded. A spotlight found me. I stood. My legs felt like they belonged to someone calmer than I was, but they held. Priya, who I'd brought as my guest, grabbed my arm before I took a step. "You've got this," she said. The walk to the stage was perhaps 30 seconds. I passed table 18. I let myself look for just one moment. My mother's champagne flute was set down in slow motion, halfway to the table. My father's face was the face of a man recalculating everything at once. My brother looked as though the floor had moved. Sophie was not looking at the stage. She was looking at them, watching the pieces land. I climbed the stairs. The MC handed me the award lucite, heavy, real, and shook my hand. The microphone was in front of me. I took a breath. "Thank you," I said, and my voice came out level and clear. "This is an incredible honor. 6 years ago, I opened a one-bay shop with a used hoist and a belief that good, honest work would carry itself. Tonight we have 8 people on staff, dozens of commercial clients, and a community of customers who trust us with their vehicles and, by extension, their safety." I paused. "To everyone who looked at what we were building and believed in it, thank you." I stepped back from the microphone. The applause was louder the second time. I walked off the stage and Priya was crying, which made me want to cry, which I refused to do. Someone put a glass of champagne in my hand. I said thank you and smiled, and felt the evening settle around me like something that had been waiting a long time. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from my brother. "We need to talk." I put the phone face down. "Not yet." The room opened into a reception at 8:45. I was talking to another nominee when I felt the specific energy of someone moving toward you with purpose and something to say. I turned. My mother was walking fast, my father a step behind her looking uncertain. "Jade." Her voice was low, controlled. "We had no idea you'd be here tonight." Her eyes went to the award in my hand, and then back to my face. "We had no idea about any of this," she said. "About the nomination. About any of it." "I know," I said. My father stepped forward. "Why didn't you tell us?" His voice was quieter than I expected. I looked at him. 9 years of Sunday dinners. 9 years of housework while my brother's quarterly update held the floor. "I did tell you," I said. 6 years ago, I told you I was opening the shop. At Sunday dinner. You said be careful. Most small businesses don't make it. Then you asked my brother about his parking pass. My mother's face flushed. "But this is a real business, Jade. What did you think I had?" I asked. She didn't answer. My father looked away. I excused myself. I made it across the room before my brother caught up with me near the coat check. He said my name. I stopped and turned. His face was flushed, the particular red he'd had since childhood when he was caught at something and knew it. "I didn't know it was this big," he said. "You never asked. I tried to tell you. I tried to tell Mum and Dad every time I hit a milestone. You never listened." His jaw shifted. "You always showed up to Sunday dinners in work clothes. You never mentioned clients or contracts. Because you never listened," I said, and my voice stayed level, which cost me more than anything else that night had. "Every Sunday, Mum asked you about your portfolio and your RRSP matching and your performance review. When did anyone ask what I was building? You could have pushed harder. I did. Every time. You just didn't want to hear it." He ran a hand through his hair. "Sophie hasn't said more than 3 words to me since my name went on that screen," he said quietly. "That's not my problem," I said. "You're really going to hold this against me?" I looked at him. My younger brother in his Navy suit, looking like someone who had broken something and was only now understanding what it was worth. "You asked our mother to uninvite me to Christmas," I said quietly. "Because I embarrassed you. Because my job was hard to explain. My job that brings in nearly twice what you make. Yeah, I'm going to hold that for a while." His expression hardened, then came apart a little at the edges. He said my name one more time. I walked away. Sophie found me near the lobby doors 20 minutes later. She was alone. "Jade?" I stopped. She looked quietly miserable in the way of someone who has understood something she wished she hadn't. "Can we talk for a minute?" "Sure," I said. We moved to a corner near the windows, the century-old stonework of the building outside catching the streetlight over 9th Avenue. She took a breath. "I'm so sorry," she said. "You don't need to apologize," I said. "I do." She shook her head. "I've been a client for 4 months. I know how you run your shop. I know you're meticulous and fair and that your staff respect you. I should have made the connection. The last name, the location, I had no reason to connect it, I said. I know. She paused. He told me you were the family embarrassment, she said. That you'd never really applied yourself. That you were resentful of his success. The words hit like cold water. I kept my face level. She continued. When he said his sister was in the trades, I pictured someone entirely different. Not someone who signs my service invoices. She paused again. Not someone who services my father's company fleet. I went still. Her father's fleet. Harlow Properties, she said. I run the marketing for it. My father is the owner. I stood with that for a moment. Harlow Properties. The fleet contract we'd picked up 14 months ago. 12 vehicles. Worth just over $90,000 a year to us. One of our 3 largest commercial accounts. Her father. She pulled a card from her clutch and handed it to me. If you still want to continue the fleet contract, she said, call the office after the new year. My father will want to meet with you directly. As for the other thing, she glanced back toward the ballroom. I think we're done. I took the card. Sophie Cross, Director of Marketing, Harlow Properties Limited. Thank you, I said. You deserve this award, she said. You deserved it 3 years ago. She walked back into the ballroom. I stood holding the card, looking out the window at the snow falling on 9th Avenue, steady and quiet, covering everything. I almost made it to the revolving doors before my mother appeared. Jade, please. I stopped, turned. She and my father were both there, standing close together, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. Can we take you anywhere? Dinner, coffee, anything. My father said, please. I looked at them. My mother was 61. She'd spent 20 years as an admin, watching people move above her, wanting something different for her children. She'd meant well. That didn't make 9 years of it land any softer. No, I said quietly. But thank you for asking. Her face crumpled. Not yet. Give me some time. I walked past them, out into the January night, -23 with the wind chill. The kind of cold that clarifies everything. I could see my breath in long visible plumes. I walked to my truck, got in, set the award on the passenger seat, started the engine. The heater kicked on. The dash lit up. I sat with my hands on the wheel and looked at the award, catching the glow from the instrument cluster. Small Business of the Year. Mackenzie Auto. Jade Mackenzie. They'd spent 6 years not seeing it. Tonight, I made sure they couldn't look somewhere else. My father emailed 4 days later. Subject line. We owe you more than an apology. I opened it at the shop, in the office, before the crew arrived. Jade. I've been trying to write this since Tuesday night. There's no version of it that doesn't feel inadequate. We failed you. We asked about your brother's job because we understood it offices, titles, performance reviews. It fit the picture we had of success. We didn't ask about yours, because we didn't understand it, and we didn't try. You built something real and impressive, and you did it without us asking once what you were building. I watched you walk up to that stage, and I didn't recognize my own daughter's life. I'm proud of you. I should have said it 6 years ago, Dad. I read it 3 times. The signature got me. Not my full name, just Dad. He hadn't signed anything that way in years. I set the phone down on the desk and looked out at the shop floor for a long moment. Then I got up and started the day. My mother texted the next morning. Can I see you? I stared at it for a while. Then I typed, Thursday. Tim Hortons on McLeod, 8 a.m. She replied in under a minute. I'll be there. My brother left a voicemail on Friday. I didn't listen to it until Sunday. His voice was quiet, less certain than I'd ever heard it. Jade, I know you probably don't want to hear from me right now. I just need to say it. I was ashamed of something I didn't understand. I was so focused on how things looked that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. She ended things with me. She said she'd seen exactly who I am, and she wasn't wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know if that matters right now, but I'm sorry. The message was 3 minutes 40 seconds. I listened to it twice. Then I went back to the estimate I'd been working on. Thursday morning was -18. The sky a flat gray over the Rockies. I arrived at 7:50, got a large dark roast, found a corner table. My mother came in at 7:58. Wool coat, minimal makeup, her hair pulled back simply. She looked tired in the way of someone who hadn't been sleeping well. She saw me, came over, sat down. A server came. She ordered a medium with 2 milk. Then she said, "You still take yours black, don't you?" "Yeah. I should have remembered that," she said quietly. The coffees came. She wrapped both hands around hers. "Thank you for meeting me." I nodded. "I don't know how to start," she said. "Start with why," I said. "Why you stopped asking. Why you let it go on for 9 years. She was quiet for a moment. "Your grandmother always said a good job was a safe job," she said finally. "Office, government, professional. Those were the ones that couldn't be taken from you. I watched women who were smarter than the men above them spend their whole careers being overlooked. I wanted you to be somewhere that couldn't do that to you." "I have that," I said. "I built that." She nodded. Her eyes were wet. I know that now. But when you said trade school, all I saw was physical work, low pay, no way up. I didn't imagine you could own it. Because you never looked," I said. She nodded again. A tear went down her face, and she brushed it away with her thumb. "I needed you to be proud of the work," I said. "Not just proud of me in spite of the work. The actual work, the shop, the people I hired, what we built." "I am now," she said. Her voice cracked on the last word. "Does that count?" I looked at her across the table. The coffee shop was filling up with the early crowd, people in parkas and toques and work boots, the ordinary machinery of a January morning in Calgary. I thought about 9 years of Sunday dinners. I thought about the Christmas Eve call. I thought about the shop at 6 a.m. on Christmas morning, the plumbing company van, the piece of work done well and alone. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "That's fair," she said. Then I said, "I'll come to Sunday dinner next week." Her head came up. "You will?" "With one condition. Anything. If anyone, you, Dad, my brother, treats my job as less than his, I leave. If anyone makes a joke, I leave. If I get a single house work, while my brother gets a full debrief, I leave, and I'll take more than a few weeks to come back." She swallowed hard. "Okay. And I'm bringing Priya," I said. "My lead tech. She's been with me since year 1. And she doesn't have family here." My mother's expression moved through something. She recovered quickly. "We'd love to have her," she said. We finished our coffees. 45 minutes, start to finish. When we stood to go, she hugged me. I let her. I sent my parents an email the following week. 3 things. First, if you want me at a family event, ask me directly, at least 2 weeks ahead. Not through my brother. Second, if you want to know about my work, ask real questions, not to check a box, because you actually care. Third, I will not change who I am to make anyone comfortable. This is who I am, and what I do. If you want to know what I do, I'll show you. My father replied within the hour. Understood. We're going to do better. My mother replied that evening. Thank you for giving us the chance to try. My brother emailed a week later. Can we talk sometime? I wrote back. Not yet. Maybe in the spring. He replied. Okay, I understand. Sunday dinner in February was unremarkable in the best possible way. Priya was immediately adopted by my mother, who asked her approximately 40 questions about automotive diagnostics that Priya answered with genuine warmth. My father had spent some time on our shop website before we arrived. He asked about the Hunter alignment rack, how it worked, what jobs required it. I explained it. He listened properly, the way he'd always listened to my brother's explanations of equity funds, with attention, with follow-up questions. My brother wasn't there. He'd been invited and had declined, which I thought showed some self-awareness. My mother asked me halfway through the roast chicken what our busiest season was and whether the cold starts in January, caused more engine problems than usual. I answered without guardedness. It felt strange. New. But not bad. In March, Sophie called the shop directly and asked to speak with me. She thanked me for the work on the fleet over the past year. She said her father would like to come by for a tour of the facility before renewing the contract. I said he was welcome any time. She asked, quietly, how I was doing. I said well. She said she was glad. We didn't mention my brother. There was nothing either of us needed to say. In April, the sun came back. Calgary spring light is its own particular thing, sharp and bright off the remaining snow, the Rockies cut clean against the western sky. I was standing in the shop bay on a Tuesday morning, watching the crew work, a mug of coffee in my hand, the alignment rack humming, music on the radio, the smell of the shop, the way it always smells oil and rubber, and the specific metallic clean of organized work. My mother had called the Sunday before, not a Sunday dinner call, just a regular call, to ask about a vintage Bronco restoration we'd taken on for a client. She'd read about it on our Instagram page, which she'd apparently been following since February. She asked about the engine rebuild, how long it would take, whether we'd post photos when it was done. I said we would. That evening, she sent me a screenshot of the first photo we'd ever posted, me standing next to a completed winter tire swap. Thumbs up. The shop bright and clean behind me with a message that said, I should have been paying attention from the start. It took me a long time to write back. When I did, I said, you're paying attention now. That's enough to start with. Some things don't get fixed, the way a broken part gets fixed. My brother and I spoke for the first time in May, a short phone call, careful on both sides, full of the restraint of people who have hurt each other and are still figuring out what comes next. He apologized again. I accepted it without pretending everything was resolved. We agreed to have dinner sometime in the summer. We haven't yet, but we will. Priya got a raise in April and used it to take her first vacation in 3 years. The Harlow Properties contract renewed for 2 more years. The vintage Bronco rolled out of the shop under its own power in June, and the client cried in the parking lot, which I've decided is the best possible outcome for any job. My father came by the shop on a Saturday in May with no particular agenda, just to see it. I gave him the full tour. He spent 40 minutes asking questions. When he left, he shook my hand in the parking lot. He's not an expressive man, my father, and said, You built something good here, Jade. I said, I know. He laughed, surprised. Then I laughed. It was the first time we'd done that together in a long time. I used to think I was building a business. What I was actually building was proof that I was worth seeing. I don't need to prove that anymore. But I'll keep building anyway, because I love it. Because there is nothing in the world like the specific satisfaction of a problem solved correctly, of something understood and repaired and running again. That's what I do. And the people who matter in my life are finally starting to understand why that matters. The rest, I can work with.